Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we successfully included Bootstrap in our HTML document, and we saw that it makes an automatic difference on things like the H1, which look much better with the Bootstrap on than without it. However, we saw that a button right here still looks a little ugly, not that good. So now what we're going to do is, first, we're going to see how we use a class for Bootstrap. That's quite simple, that's nothing new. And then we're going to see a couple of things like the form and the navbar, and we're going to see how they look from Bootstrap, right? So whenever you want to use a new thing that you do not know, you'll simply go to this www.getbootstrap.com, and then you need to go to the documentation. So now you might be thinking that why are we going to online resources all the time? And including me, a lot of people get uncomfortable when Bootstrap starts. And that is mainly because now you will be including a lot of code in your file which you won't know what exactly it is doing. But again, that is what web development is. To a large extent, you need to know how to get things from the web and then use them. And like if you see, there are a whole lot of things here, like a lot of things. This is just the getting started portion. And if I keep on going and going and going and going, this will be a long documentation. And the one thing you need to know about, reading documentations whenever you get to a new software is that this is not like, something that you need to read before you start using Bootstrap. You can start using Bootstrap from this moment itself. It's not a problem. You will read this as you need it. You will read only the part that you need. If I want to use a button, I will go to components and then buttons, or you can simply search for button up here, and that will work perfectly fine. So now I'd see what code they're talking about, and then I'd simply use that, and that's what a documentation will do. And this is a tab that you'll have a lot, that you'll have open almost all the time whenever you're making something, right? Because you need to refer to documentations all the time. And not just Bootstrap documentation, we are going to use a lot of resources, and you'll need to read the documentations for all of those. And documentations are pretty common. You should know how to get your particular thing from a 100-page long document successfully, and that skill will actually help you a lot. So now let's see how they're styling a button. So first of all, they're giving us this small demo of what all kind of buttons do they offer. These are all the buttons. And you can see they're pretty much the same. The only thing is the color and the background color. And you see they look much better than this, unstyled button right here. This light has a white background and it's on white. That's why it's not really visible. So yeah, so this is the syntax they're talking about. And if I copy one of this right here first, and I'll change this primary to click. And this type is equal to button is something that you can exclude. I've never used it personally whenever I'm making, some button for some proper site. So now we have something like the BTN and the BTN primary. So, and first of all, you can see there are a whole lot of things there. If I keep on going, they have active button, they have checkbox, toggle states, and disabled state, active state. Like I said, block level button is the button that takes up the entire page. So that's what I'm talking about, and let's see what they have to say about these two classes. So the button tags. The .btn classes are designed to be used with the button element. However, you can also use these classes in Aeon input. We will do something like this when making a project. So let's just see what happens if we do simply .btn, right? And if I go here, I see this is the button right now. I refresh. First of all, the color is by default, the background color is by default white for this. Yeah, so now if I right click on this, you can see the border right here. So now it gave it a nice rounded border and a good font, and a background. However, the background is white by default. So what you can do is you can do btn dash, and you will do something like this a lot in Bootstrap, adding multiple classes. So now we've seen that whenever we're adding a button, we need to add a class is equal to button in it, no matter what happens, right? Because that will tell Bootstrap that, okay, this is a button. And next we can do btn dash. So we can see everything here is btn primary, btn secondary, btn success. So everything is btn dash something. And the next word is the word that they have in here. So if I want a green button, I'll do btn success, and then if I refresh, I see I get a nice green button, which is much better styled than what we had without Bootstrap. Yeah, definitely it's much better styled. You can use it. You can even use it directly in a decent website, right? Or you could do btn primary. Yeah, and it gives me this. You could do a btn warning, and it'll give you a red button. Sorry, a yellow button. And for red you will have to do danger. Now of course I remember all of this because I've used buttons pretty often when developing, and you'll not remember this in the beginning, of course. So what you can do is you can visit, you can see what classes they have included, and then you can just simply copy those classes and use them here, and Bootstrap will apply the styles for you. Now I like primary a lot, so I'll keep this primary. Right. So now we have a basic idea, or I can do success. It doesn't really matter, I'm just doing it for the look. Yeah. So now we have a basic idea of what a button, of how Bootstrap actually works, and how we can utilize its, lot of powers that it has. So now let's just focus on two components for now that I want to show you. The first is the forms. Now we have seen forms and we remember what they looked like. It was like form, and again forget this action. For now we'll get into this in the back end. And we have input. Let's just do 3 text inputs, and we'll do a button. I refresh. I see this is some. Oh, I haven't given anything in the button. So yeah. And one thing that you should know is that if you have one button in the form, it is automatically the submit button, right, by default. So the form will know that this is for submitting. So we get this, a little unstyled, and earlier we put BR tags on this, and we had like, I don't know, this wasn't looking really good, like right now too. So what we can do is we can make something like this, and to make this we don't have to do anything except copy this, paste this instead, and now if you inspect this a little, we see that they have a div with a class of form group, they have a label, and this is, you can change all of this. This is email address, etc. And the most important things are these classes right here. Class is equal to form control. You see they have a class is equal to form controller on all of the inputs, and they have a class of form check input on this one because this is a checkbox. So now if I go here and I refresh, I see I get nice forms, and these are by default on the whole page. You could just simply, fiddle with its width in your custom styles, and then it will look really good. We see that we didn't have to do anything. Now you might be getting a little uncomfortable because you don't know what's happening in your code, right? And you might be thinking, like, how will I do something if I don't know what's happening? So the point is that you know what is happening here. You can make this form by yourself. You can put all these styles by yourself. You can change the font. You can change the input size to be for the whole page. You can do all of this by yourself by custom styles. It's not a problem. The only thing you're doing is that you're including some code that you did not write. And it might be difficult to get used to this in the first, few days. But soon you will be really comfortable with this, and you will be happy that you know how to use Bootstrap, honestly, because this will help you simplify your websites a lot. So we see something like this happens, and you know the common things you'll remember in the end. Like, I know how to make a form like this without copying it from this, because I know you have to make a form group, and then you have to, all of that. Forget that right now. So yeah, we get something like this really easily. So this is a form, and now, of course, this is not submitting anywhere because, I mean, it seems like it's submitting, but you can't access the data you enter in here, right? And then, if you didn't want email and password, you would change this to, let's say, name and age. And we can change this type to number. And I see this is a number. And check me out. And this also works fine, right? So this is just the first form that I took, you know, for just the fun. You can see how many forms they have. They have like multiple forms, and they have different. They tell you the classes too. Like, if you want a large form, you can do a form control large, and you can do form control small if you want a small form. You can add this class to the form, and they also give you really nice examples. So they're telling you the classes by themselves too, and then they're giving you the whole template that you can copy to make this exact thing right here. And then most of the times you'll copy this down, and then you'll change the data that's being displayed, and how it's being collected by your own, according to your own need, and you'll be perfect for work. So yeah, email is read-only plain text, where they're telling you how to make a form if you have some text already written, right? That cannot be changed. Excellent. So they're showing you how to give a range input now. Normally, to have a range input, you might have to do some styling to get something like this nice, but they're giving you it again. So there are a lot of things in this. You can see these are all just different types of forms. So you see there's a lot of it, and you could normally just go into this and see what suits your need the most, copy this and change it according to yourself. So let's say I wanted a third field here, name, age, and then email, right? And I want, okay, there's no placeholder. So what if I wanted to add a placeholder? Just simply do placeholder, enter name, and now I can, so what if I don't want this checkbox? I simply delete it, that doesn't matter. And I want email, I'll duplicate this. I'll change this label to email, and you see that they use the best practices. They use labels, and anywhere you see they use the best practices, because this is a really professional platform. So they'll not make anything that you cannot use for your professional things. And a lot of websites use Bootstrap. The only thing is that you can apply your custom styles by including a custom style sheet. I'll show you that in just a second. And then you can change what they have, you can tweak with it, and then in the end you will have what you want. So I'll show you that in just a second. So now I have another thing known as email. So that's it, that's what you wanted. So now we want to apply some custom styles to it, say. So what we can do is we can link to another style sheet below this. Remember, below this, because if this is below the other style sheet, then these styles will override those styles, and effectively you won't be doing anything. So you have to link to it below. Now I'll not make a separate style sheet for this, and I'll do it inside the style tag, right? So I'll just say, okay, I want my .btn to be of width 100%, let's say. And if I refresh, I see my both buttons become of width 100%. So you could simply go and tweak anything you want. That is never a problem, right? And that's really, really easy. You just have to style one of these classes, or you could give a class of your own, and as your style sheet is after this style sheet, your class will get the preference. Yeah, so that's it. The next thing we can see is the navbar. So on most of the sites, on all of the sites, you will see something like this above, right? This is a navbar where you can navigate to different things, and we must have something similar on our own website too. So most of the times you will add a navbar through Bootstrap, because adding a navbar by yourself is a little complex. It is simple HTML, but doing all of it becomes really, really long and you don't want to do it, and hence you will use Bootstrap almost all the time, right? So this is all the code they have for a navbar, and you see there are a lot of classes and there are a lot of things there. So even I don't know which class does what thing until now, and that is perfectly fine. You should know how to utilize the resources online. You don't need to necessarily know how they work in web development, right? So I just copy this, I paste this down here at the start of the body. So now this is comprising a navbar like this for me, and if I refresh, I get my navbar. That's perfect, right? And I can remove this size of 100 because that's looking a little ugly. This was just to show you that you can do something like this. And if I refresh, I see I get a nice navbar up here. So now you'll tweak this a lot to make this look like this is not from Bootstrap. Of course, even though most of the web developers will know that this is from Bootstrap because they will use it a lot in their codes too. So they're showing what the Navbar brand class does, right? Navbar brand gives you this thing up here. This is the Navbar brand. So whatever name of your company that you put up here, or if you put up your logo, it will have the Navbar brand thing. And that's what the .navbar brand means. So you can have a look at this, and because this is a lot of content and it is not feasible for me to show all of this to you in one video or even in 3-4 videos. So yeah, so one of the important things that you will use is this background thing. So if I do this into .navbar dark, so by default we see this is navbar light. So what if I change this to navbar dark and I change it to bg dark? I see this becomes a dark navbar. You could match this with your theme, or if you want some custom color, again you would go in here, you would do .navbar dark, you would do color, perfect, and that is done all the time. That is never a problem. So the color is not being affected by this because they must have a more specific thing inside. So let's see this. Okay, let's style .nav link. They must have a pretty specific thing inside, so that's why this is not working. But you could mostly just click on something, inspect, and let's say you wanted to change your color, and you can see they have a pretty specific thing right here. So what you can do is you can simply copy this. You can I didn't get copied. Oh, I don't think you can copy this. Or can you? Yes, you can. So you copy this and you put a color of, let's say, purple again, and if you refresh, you see these two things which had that class turn purple. So you could modify the whole navbar according to you, and you could make it look like something you made by yourself and not Bootstrap. However, you will not have to write this amount of code. And imagine that this is the amount of code that you have to write with Bootstrap. So without it, you would be just writing a whole lot of CSS, and that will be very, very painful. So yeah, so I can remove this. This does not look good again. Yeah, and you could remove these things too. Let's say I don't want this disabled button, so I'll find this disabled button. Where are you? Drop down. Yeah, this is the disabled one. So you can click on this li. The closing li gets highlighted. You select all of this. You remove this, and you see the disable button gets removed. And let's say you want to make the link active. So what you can do is you can add a class of active, and this gets active. So I knew this class active because I've studied these docs. And by study, I don't mean read all of them. Whenever you want a specific feature, you can search the docs for that. And it'll take you a lot of time in the beginning. I'm sure it will. But then soon you will get really used to it. And then you'll learn how to find the thing that you need out of it, right? And that will be a really helpful feature for you. So this was Navbar forms and normal how to use Bootstrap. And we see that by writing no CSS at all, we made something look really good. And we could use something like a container. Now you will be confused by what a container is. Don't worry about that. This will be something you will use a lot. So yeah, I'll just move this div. Yeah, here. And now this looks even better. And you could add some margin up top. And I'll not make any margin, I'll just add a BR. Never good practice, but still. And we see we've made a decent looking page without including any styles of our own. Even the style tag is empty, right? We have nothing here. And this is all thanks to Bootstrap. And now you've also seen how you can include a navbar and a form. And like this was a pretty basic intro to all of this. You can see how many things we have here. We have, I don't know, Jumbotron is the big image that you have up top on good sites, and you can see drop downs, collapse, new image. This is interesting. So you must have seen this on some sites, and you might have thought, okay, this is really difficult to make. But let's see what we have. What all you have to do is you have to copy this, you have to change the source of the images, and this is working. Really cool, right? It is, and this will remain cool no matter how many years you stay in development. Bootstrap will always be cool. That's it. Right, so now you studied a lot of basic Bootstrap, and we'll make some projects in the next one. We'll make some projects soon because we still have to cover grid system, which is a really important and most used Bootstrap system, I think, along with Navbar. I've used it in every site I've made, and yeah. So and from now on, our codes are going to get a little, different and difficult. I mean, long but difficult. So I'm going to start sharing the code that we have, and that will be through GitHub. Now you might not know what GitHub is if you have not coded before, and we're going to have a lot of discussion on Git and GitHub by the end of this course. But I'll give you a demo of how you can access that code in the next video, right? So that's it for this one. I'll see you there.